Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either February 21st or 22nd, 2023. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? There's a lot of books that I want to talk about this week, but surprisingly, none of them are true, clear standouts. But I do have a just one book pick this week. We'll, of course, get to that later in the video. But let's start off first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Spy Superb, issue number 2. The question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is yes. Yes, it was. It was a bit of a default pick, but I was looking forward to issue number 2 because I liked issue number 1 a lot, and issue number 2 did not disappoint. How I know, for me, it is a good comic book, there are comic books that I read that I enjoy, that I'll read and I'll flip through, and when I'm done, I set them down and I move on to the next one. And that's just about it. But there are other ones that I have reactions to where I'm like, whoa, or oh, wow, or oh my, oh, wow, no. My reaction to Spy Superb issue number 2 was I had a slight grin the whole time. I was just enjoying it, enjoying the tone, enjoying the way the plot was developing, enjoying the characters, just enjoying it. So I like it a lot. I highly recommend it to all of you out there. It is expensive at $8 per issue, but it's only a 3-issue series, and there are additional pages in there, so it's worth the $8. And from a content perspective, I think it's absolutely worth it. I'm sure you could find issue number 1 still. Issue number 2 is on the shelves right now, and issue number 3 will come out soon. So yes, Spy Superb issue number 2 was, in my opinion, a worthy and worthwhile just one book pick 2 weeks ago. If you're reading Spy Superb, let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments. Okay, let's go ahead now and focus on the books that are coming out this week. There's the one book I'm picking. There are the 9 honorable mentions that I have. I'm going to talk about each one very minimally to get through them as quickly as possible. But then there's also a book that I just want to kind of put on your radar. It's actually a particular cover. The book is Deceased, War of the Undead Gods, issue number 6 of an 8-issue limited series. Specifically, I want to point out this hip-hop variant. These hip-hop variants, this is an homage to NWA's Straight Outta Compton. This is, of course, W.U.G. I'm not sure who that's supposed to be. Straight Out of Gotham. Let me know what W.U.G. is down in the comments. War of Undead Gods. That's what it is. I beat you to it. These hip-hop variants and covers like this sometimes blow up on the secondary market. They're actually not for me. I am not the key core audience for something like this, but they do really well on the secondary market to people who really, really like these hip-hop variants. And NWA and this album Straight Outta Compton is kind of from my era, so I can tell you it's awesome. So I don't know if it'll be crazy on the secondary market, but I wanted to have it on your radar so that you didn't miss out if you were interested in it. Okay, pushing through, the first honorable mention that I have for you this week is Superman, issue number 1 from DC. Here's the description. It's the dawn of DC. Superman has returned to Metropolis, and his greatest enemy, Lex Luthor, is finally behind bars. The future of the Superman family has never been brighter. As Clark Kent settles back into his life, iconic and new enemies erupt from the shadows to strike down the Man of Steel. But waiting in the wings to back up Big Blue is Supercorp? What secret project has Lex given to Superman? A hero is only as good as their villains will be put to the test in this brand new oversized number 1 featuring comics' greatest superhero by DC Comics architect Joshua Williamson and award-winning superstar artist Jamal Campbell. Okay, so there's basically 3 reasons why I mentioned this book to you this week. And one reason I almost didn't. There are way too many covers for it. Way too many. I feel so bad for comic shops that have to figure out what to order when there's like 10 different covers of the same book and they're all just kind of meh. So Too many covers, but the three positives are: one, it's Superman. And if you've ever been looking for an excuse to read a Superman comic, like I've read Superman comics, I've enjoyed Superman comics a long time ago, but I think if you're anything like me, you're a little bit over Superman, so you're not really so interested in reading a Superman comic, but if you were even just a little bit, now's the time, because this is a reboot, and issue number 1, we're back with Clark Kent, so we're back true to form with Superman. And then reasons 2 and 3 for picking up this book are writer Joshua Williamson and artist Jamal Campbell. Both of them are fantastic, and I would be interested in reading anything that the two of them were working on. They just happen to be working on Superman. So once again, if you're curious about Superman at all, now's the time to jump on this book coming out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Tower, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series. This is from a publisher called A Wave Blue World Incorporated. Here's the description. Real-life contestants battle it out in a video game-style competition to reach the top of the tower. Cassandra, Kimmy, and Mac are thrust into a brutal and seemingly virtual world where danger lies in wait around every corner. With no time to solve the mystery of where they are or why they're here, they'll have to smarten up and join forces if they intend to survive, using their individualized weapons and animal assistance to outsmart deadly traps and ambushes. But loyalties will be tested, as only one team can become the ultimate champion. Okay, so this was one that I started to read. It was a publisher I didn't know, and I read the description, and I was like, I just don't know about this one. I'll probably not going to mention it this week. But then I read, they'll have to smarten up and join forces if they intend to survive, using their individualized weapons, that's interesting to me, and animal assistance, also interesting to me, to outsmart deadly traps and ambushes, also interesting to me. This seems like it could be fun and entertaining. It seems like it should be a video game, or it should be a like a television series, like I'm thinking, what is it, Sword Art Online, which was amazing. This seems very similar to that, and it's a good idea. So if you like this type of thing, this might be something for you to check out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Liquid Kill, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from Whatnot Publishing. Here's the description. Barcelona-based illustrator and cover artist Tony Infante, I think that's right, joins Whatnot Publishing with the launch of Liquid Kill. Liquid Kill follows sadist slaughtering vigilantes as they encounter pure evil in a blood-soaked cyberpunk future. Written by the creators of the critically acclaimed series It Eats What Feeds It, and artist Gabriel Umazark. For the staff and clientele of a mysterious island hotel, it's just another night of luxury and vice until members of Liquid Kill, a notoriously violent, all-female militia, lay siege. Demanding compliance or death as they gather intelligence, the adrenaline quickly floods the halls of as the team eliminates all threats with ease in their search for their kidnapped leader. That is until something is unleashed. Something hungry. If there's anyone prepared for the evils on the island, it's these fearless killers. But when the undaunted begin to falter, their foe must be truly monstrous. Okay, this is another one that I wasn't so sure I was going to mention, and then I read the description and I was like, there's something there. It's one thing when you're just talking about a team of elite female assassins going to an island to rescue their leader. That's cool, and I could see that being really entertaining. I mean, who doesn't think that a team of elite female assassins isn't cool? Maybe somebody, but not me. But then they add here that it says here, that is until something is unleashed, something hungry. So then all of a sudden there's this additional like monster fighting on top of it. It might be a hat on a hat, meaning more than you need necessarily. But it could also be very, very awesome. So if something like this sounds interesting to you, I recommend you check it out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Godfell, issue number 1 from Vault Comics. Here's the description. One sunny day in the land of Kerathim, God falls dead from the sky. The impact sends out shockwaves that draw in royal families at war, shadowy creatures of the dark, and armies of the dispossessed, all coming to lay claim to parts of God's body. Into this power struggle wanders Vanzi Zulin, a soldier and berserker trying to get home from a years-long war, forced to fight her way through the strange landscapes in and on God's corpse. From the soles of its feet through the top of its head, Zanzi will acquire a mysterious traveling companion on her own pilgrimage. Okay, this is another one this week that when I first started to read it, I thought, I'm not going to mention this book. It doesn't seem that interesting to me. But then it turned a corner and it got interesting to me. The idea of a god falling from the sky dead and then everybody rushing to lay claim to pieces of it is very, we only find them when they're dead, which was something that I enjoyed very much, but not very many other people did. But I thought it was quite good. This is very similar in a lot of different ways. And at first I thought, oh, they'll all just be going and trying to get pieces of it. But apparently this god's body is so big, this dead god's body is so big, that this main character has to force her way through the strange landscapes in and on God's corpse, from the soles of its feet through the top of its head. This thing is so big, it has its own landscapes. So that's interesting to me. What are these landscapes going to be? If they were me, the landscape of my chest was, if it was a huge, gigantic thing, let's say the size of a state or something like that, it would just be cloth, t-shirt. There'd be no landscape. It would just be shirt. But what is the landscapes of these gods going to be? It could be really, really cool. It could be really, really lame. But if it's interesting to you, you might consider checking it out. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Immoral XMen, issue number 1 of a 3-issue limited series from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. They said the mutants were humanity's future. It's 10 years later, and they were proven to be right. The X-Men exist in a world that adores and respects them. So why are they sworn to crush it? But while they do, Emma can take a few minutes out to crush Mr. Sinister. Okay, I mentioned this for the same reason that I mentioned was Nightcrawlers last week, and I almost didn't mention it for the same reason I didn't mention Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants 2 weeks ago. This seems like it could be really cool. This seems like it could be really fun and really entertaining, and isn't that what we're all looking for in our comic books? But I'm not so sure if it's going to be great. Of the 3 Sins of Sinister ties-in that I have seen so far, this one probably seems the least interesting of the 3. But I mentioned it because I decided I'm going to mention them all, and so it's a Sins of the Sinister tie-in story. It could be fun. It could be entertaining. It could be something you want to check out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures, The Nameless Terror, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. Even in the shining light of the High Republic, there are shadows lurking in the galaxy. A Jedi mission to the planet Dalna suddenly comes under attack by unknown assailants. As the knights retreat to an ancient structure, it quickly becomes clear that they are far from safe. Something evil stalks the ruins, a ruthless predator, an unknown terror, a nameless fear. Okay, so I mentioned this one because it's a Star Wars number 1. Are there first appearances in this? I don't know. I think so, probably. But I went on to Key Collector, which is someplace I often go to kind of double check these first appearances on these newer books. And they didn't have anything listed except for like a one-sentence description of the plot. They didn't say anything about new characters. It just might be that they haven't gotten a hold of it and they can't confirm new characters yet. Entirely possible. But anything that has the potential to have Star Wars first appearances in it, I'm going to mention it to you, even though there have been a lot of them. So many of them that the excitement about Star Wars first appearances in these books has diminished a lot because there's been a lot of them. But I have to mention it to you. It has to be on your radar, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. So I mention it to you that it's coming out this coming week. The next book that I'm going to mention to you is not a new book. It is Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 4 from Boom Studios. Here's the description. The apocalyptics begin, but it isn't fun and games. The Wasteland Rangers won't let Maceo, a rival suitor for Mezzi, go without competing to the death. The stakes are high as Mezzi's close connection with the Rangers' chiefess is revealed and Maceo seems out of his league. But there's more than one way to save someone. Okay, I mentioned this book this week because it is one of the 4 books that I'm absolutely picking up this week. I have really been enjoying Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. I like the tone, I like the story, I like the art. I like there's these flash forwards and I keep wondering how do we get from where we are to where we're going in the best possible way. It's been really, really entertaining. I'm enjoying it a lot. And that's why it's on this week's list of honorable mentions, because I'm absolutely picking it up. The next thing I want to do is bring back a special segment that we do from time to time. It's Tynan Time. Yes, the return of Tynan Time. James Tynan IV, my guy, as I like to call him, has 2 books that are coming out this week, and of course I am buying them both. The first one I want to tell you about this week is Something is Killing the Children, issue number 29 from Boom Studios. Here's the description. It's the final hour for Erica as she has no choice left but to face the duplicity and save Tribulation from its reckoning. But Cutter's looming arrival isn't the only thing competing for the rogue Black Mask's attention. Gabby has her own plans, ones that put her in grave danger. Okay, I mention it because I'm buying it and because it is my favorite comic book. It is so good. And this story, this current plot line has been really entertaining. I wasn't so sure, but I've been enjoying it a lot. And part of the reason I know I'm enjoying it a lot is because I read the issues and I'm like, that was too short. Maybe I should just wait and read these in chunks. There's not enough content. I want more. Well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that they're doing something right. So Something is Killing the Children is a fantastic series, super, super popular. None of you are hearing about it for the first time from me this week. So if you've been enjoying it, continue to enjoy it. And if you haven't been, I will continue to enjoy it on your behalf. The other book I want to mention this week as part of Tynan Time is a new book. Yes, a new book from James Tynan IV. It is Blue Book, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. From the New York Times bestselling and award-winning co-creators of Something is Killing the Children, The Nice House on the Lake, The Department of Truth, and Powers, comes this ambitious nonfiction comic book experience depicting true stories of UFO abductions with an eye to capturing the strange essence of those encounters. In this debut issue, Tynan presents what he calls his true weird stories, tales of ordinary people encountering the strange and the impossible. Teaming with artist Michael Avon Oeming, they retell some of the most popular UFO and alien encounter accounts starting with the infamous Betty and Barney Hill abduction, the widely publicized and very first abduction that went on to shape and influence all future encounter stories. Also includes the short True Weird Coney Island by James Tynion IV, Klaus Janson, and Aditya Bidikar. Okay, so I mentioned this book to you for a few reasons. One, because it's James Tynion IV, he's my guy, and he's fantastic. And it's new issue number 1 of characters that I don't know if they've ever been in a movie. I don't know if, I think their last names are the Hills. I don't know if these two characters have ever been in like a movie or a television show or something, but I heard a rumor that there is some sort of movie that's coming that's either a fictional retelling or maybe a documentary look into what is, as this description mentions, the first documented alien abduction story ever. And it basically does this retelling by these two people who claim to have been abducted by aliens has influenced popular culture for decades, in that it's become kind of the template that people use for what aliens look like, the grays with the big eyes, and what happens with alien abductions and all of these things. So these characters are a big deal, even if you don't believe that aliens actually abducted them. Their cultural influence has been significant. And once again, I heard that there's some kind of movie coming out about them. And this, as far as I know, is, and most likely, I can't imagine that it's not, this is the first full appearance in comic books of these characters. So there might be something there. In addition, I've read all of these because these stories were already presented through James Tynion IV's Substack, of which I am a subscriber. So I've read the entirety of Blue Book already, and it's good, it's entertaining. I prefer fiction. There's something about fiction that I prefer. This is a non-fiction comic book. This is a pretty true researched retelling of what happened to these people. But that's interesting in and of itself. It was a story that in detail I didn't know about, and this was a fantastic way to get that information. So I highly recommend checking out Blue Book this week, and this was almost this close to becoming my Just One Book pick for the week. So consider it like a secondary Just One Book pick if you'd like. I'm absolutely buying it this week. And the last book that I'm going to talk about this week, the one book that I would buy this week, if I could buy just one book that wasn't by James Tynion IV. I'm always going to buy something that's given to children in Blue Book. But if I could only buy one other book other than something by James Tynion IV, it would be this book. And that book is Local Man, issue number 1 from Image Comics. Here's the description. Series premiere. Stray Dogs creator Tony Fleece teams with Revivals Tim Seeley for a series that combines rural crime noir and superhero action. Once the star recruit of the media sensation super team 3rd Gen, Jack Xavier, had it all. But when controversy sends Crossjack crawling back to his mom and dad's basement in the Midwest, Jack struggles to fit into a world he left far behind. And then the bodies start piling up. Each issue is a classic Image Comics flip book with a lead story drawn by Fleece and a superhero flashback into the depths of the Image universe drawn by Seeley. First issue contains 30 pages of story for only $3.99. Okay, so like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there was no absolutely clear, standout, just one book pick this week. It was down to Local Man for me or Blue Book. And I didn't choose Blue Book because, while very interesting to me, and I've read it and I liked it a lot, Local Man, I believe in its own way, it has a potential. It has potential. It's by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece. Now, I don't know a ton about Tim Seeley. I know the name immediately, but I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head what he's most known for. But I do know Tony Fleece and what he is most known for, and that is the book Stray Dogs. I almost blanked on the name of it right there. Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs was like the biggest indie book of, I believe, 2021. It was massive. People, I mean, all the variant covers that were coming out, people were going nuts for Stray Dogs. Well, that's Tony Fleece. So we know that he's able to put together a good story that people will engage with and are interested in. And this seems interesting to me. He's a superhero who's going through some hard times and goes back to his mom and dad's house to try to like figure stuff out, and then things don't go so well there. I like when there's conflict like that. Superheroes are oftentimes idealized. They seem to be stronger, faster, smarter, kinder, gentler, better than everybody. So they become somebody to aspire to. Well, what happens when somebody who's supposed to be all of that loses it all and they're just kind of like a schlub living in their parents' basement? No disrespect to if you're living in your parents' basement. You got to do what you got to do. But if you started as a superhero and ended up in your mom and dad's basement, that's going to sting. And that's an interesting story. That's an interesting character. That's an interesting set of circumstances that I am interested in checking out. And if it's from people that are known to do good work, Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece, I'm interested. Now, a word of caution. Stray Dogs, while it was like the biggest thing of the year it came out, since then has plummeted. I bought copies of Stray Dogs #1 graded at a 9.8 when the prices were going down. I got it at like just over $100 or something like that, and I thought I did great. Well, since then, I haven't checked it recently, but it has gone way down past that. It's just one of those things, once people stop talking about it, then people stop picking it up and the demand goes down and the price goes down. But there was a there with Stray Dogs at some point, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that there's the potential for some there here as well. So the story sounds interesting, the people making it sound interesting, and it's interesting enough for me to make it my just one book pick for this week. All right, that's it. Well, I talked about a total of 12 books in this video. I hope it's not too long. I hope not. I appreciate you sticking through all the way to the end. If you liked it, likes are appreciated by me. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. I have a Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills video series that's coming out every Thursday for the next couple of weeks. I highly recommend you check that out. All right, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.